Hi, my name is Brenda Switson, and you're listening to the Zebras to Apples podcast, the fun and fascinating stories of supply chain logistics. Today, I'm sitting down with Cindy Clark, President of Women in Supply Chain, or WISC. Cindy and I met when Women in Supply Chain was in its first iteration, and she was one of our chairs. And we had so many great conversations, and a really great friendship has developed from there. And this conversation really shows how many different areas supply chain and logistics is involved in. We talk about AI, we talk about farming, we talk about a whole bunch of things in between. And so with that, I hope you really enjoy this episode and have a wonderful day. So I'm here with Cindy Clark, and Cindy and I have known each other since about 2011. I think the first time we met was at a Calgary, either logistics council or it was a supply chain sector chat that we were having.
I think it might have been the Calgary Logistics, the one that was coordinated with the city.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I wanted to kind of talk because you've got a really great background in supply chain, a whole bunch of different aspects. And I just wanted to kind of go through what your career history was to begin with.
So that's kind of interesting because my evolution of supply chain probably came around the same time that the conversation was shifting in about 2011 when people were starting to have the conversation about there is a supply chain role and that there are positions in it. Because I think I believe that everybody's in supply chain, but when I look back, I was always in supply chain.
Correct.
Even to the point where we had a commercial truck repair facility and we were managing inventory. You had to get pieces, movement of goods. I remember working with some of the construction companies and trying to navigate their equipment for repairs. And you just never thought of it.
No.
You're a parts person.
Yeah.
You're just ordering. You didn't have a title. From there, I ended up opening up my own parts store in automotive and heavy duty.
Yeah.
I just had a parts store.
Right.
But then when you look back in the evolution and inventory management and even the technology was just starting to become aware. We were moving from the cards to the computer. And we just identified that we had it. But then we were still living with the awareness. Well, we know we've moved that, or this is something you should have, this many. And it was always very manual, even with a computer. It's just you didn't have cards.
Yeah.
And then it got a little bit better in terms of the management. So when we went from the parts store and our specialty repair facilities, we got the franchise for Western Star. That's when you're dealing with the larger national, international companies.
Right.
And they had a different awareness. I can still remember Freightliner through what they would have had was Sterling trucks, bought Western Star.
Oh.
And because Freightliner couldn't buy Western Star because there was this consideration of, monopoly and stuff. And this is how Daimler came into North America because they started off with their Mercedes vehicle, didn't take off very well. It wasn't American. And then that's how they kind of came into the North America. And then, of course, there was this issue of, well, now Freightliner buys, they're going to buy all these things up. And eventually we knew that it was going to come down to the 10 to 4 kind of scenario anyway. And I remember them saying about how they have technology in their manufacturing and they use computers and it's all high tech. So I thought, oh, wow, I can't wait to see this. They hadn't even got it right. Like they were kind of moving it and you'd get a vehicle and you'd order it and then you'd have the pieces and you'd buy as you go, but you didn't hold on to anything. Like there wasn't a real management, there wasn't forecasting, and that evolved all the time we had the franchise. So it was kind of like the whole sort of seeing the dynamic of how we saw the supply chain, inventory management, and technology. And then so I had the franchise. I bought it from my dad. And that's when Daimler was starting to really show a lot of awareness on technology, visibility on the vehicles. People were still reluctant because they didn't want someone to spy on them. But they had a technology before it was even something was discussed that they could monitor your vehicle for you and identify anything coming down the pipeline for flaws.
Oh, wow.
but nobody wanted to be spied on. But they were okay with breaking down somewhere in no man's land with no visibility and then trying to find support. And what this technology was doing, and people have obviously since bought into it, they could pre-advise, there's a problem happening, this is where the next dealership is, parts are available here, this is the time frame, this is what you should do. So it was really a matter of people getting comfortable with it, and people had to have challenges until they realized this is where you're going to go. And then there was a consolidation prior to even the pandemic where manufacturers were starting to build and manufacture their own goods. So that changes a lot of the dynamics of supply chain, where you're getting it. And Daimler started to be aware of problems with product. So they were changing from their engines, where they weren't focused necessarily on what would have been the Detroit, which they ended up buying anyway, and Caterpillar. And so they did their Mercedes power. And they had problems and didn't do well. But what they realized is that if they had any one location had an issue with availability, they'd be trapped.
Right.
So what they did was they built factories in 3 different continents.
Oh.
On the engines.
Yeah.
Different sizes, but they could all be swapped quickly on the manufacturing line to meet the need in any other district or market. So watching all that, you started to realize an awareness of supply chain, global procurement, and availability.
Yeah.
So, but we really didn't know it was supply chain.
No. But it was trucking, which is transportation, which is...
But they didn't even call it logistics.
No.
It was just transportation, trucking. So anyway, it was interesting. So when I look back at it, we've always been in it. But then it's just been a slow drip to get to that spot, right? So it's kind of entertaining. So, but, and I think that was probably when the conversation was, I was aware of it because of the Gateway project, and we were talking about more employment. But it really didn't take off until Van Horn at that time realized, okay, there's a shortage. We all know that. MRU and SATE were just talking about having programs and developing them, that it became really clear about supply chain. Yeah. There was a shortage of people, but they didn't know what that really meant. And they didn't have titles. They hadn't identified anything on a professional level. So that changed. But at the same time, which we still have, is a resistant on a chosen generation, generally men, of, well, who do we bring in? How do we identify if they have any value? We need to get them trained quickly. But they didn't even recognize that they already had the staff. They had the people, but they just didn't give them a good name. Right. And so then that came out. That's when the women in supply chain happened. Yes. And I was, at this time, still on the dealership side of it and engaged in that portion of it. But at no point, even as just being a property owner, you're still dealing with supply chain. Completely. And every day I get up, I'm dealing with supply chain. I see it differently in different times, having moments of, how do I call it, unwelcome circumstances, like a bad accident. Yeah. You start to realize that the supply chain, and I remember sitting there looking when I got a chance at Alberta Healthcare and the supply chain in the hospitals. Oh, it's huge. But, you know, you really watched it. And I was there I was in the hospital just near the end of how they were handling the pandemic. And it was wild. Yeah. How they're like, I would identify the procurement. And it's not totally different now. They've kind of got it down a little bit more organized. Because I look at the gloves and the masks and all the little pieces and all how they store it. And they can't even get the holders to be matched for the gloves. No. And they're all different manufacturers. Yes. So you ask yourself, well, and then what's the procurement process here? Yeah. Yeah. And then you've got ones where, you know, someone's allergic to like latex, so then they've got their own type of gloves. So then you've got to have the third type, but yeah. Oh yeah. Or the fourth type. But wouldn't it make sense if some are allergic, that you just make them all for everybody? You just never have to think about it. Right. That would make sense. It would, when you think about it like that. You know, And then the quality, I remember when during the pandemic, and we were working on a program with the MTA to put together packages for the truck drivers who were traveling, especially if they're going stateside, and they needed their masks and all these materials. And it was mind-boggling how hard that was to get all that material.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't so much the issue of getting people to put the money into it, but trying to find a consistent value in terms of masks.
Yes.
I mean, we know that. I mean, globally it was an issue. But it just it showed, and it still hasn't improved, which is mind-boggling to me, that they haven't taken the opportunity to find a consistent process. But then everybody wants to be in the market. So then who do you eliminate?
And everyone has their preference of which style they like the best. And
yeah, but there's no system in place to navigate the next pandemic. And it didn't improve, hasn't changed, hasn't got better. You can see that when you go back in the hospital to take a look at it.
Yeah.
You know, if one large purchasing group can't buy one consistent product from one consistent manufacturer, then it hasn't established a system in place, because they don't identify and they don't separate them. So if they said, well, this mask is for that person, this mask is for that person, then you don't put them both together.
No.
You identify for what uses they're going to be. So when they're separated, you can identify it. But when you see it that they're not separated, it's just that they tried to find it and they just got it wherever they could get it. Mm-hmm. So if we're not in a pandemic and we're having problems, then it's a problem.
Right.
So those are the little things that I still pick up on.
Right? Oh, yeah, totally.
And then having a horse, which is even more interesting, is that you don't even really pick. That's where I'm kind of gone down with the agricultural side of it, and the lack of awareness that we have as consumers in the simple things. Saying that you can't get good hay for cattle. That means like your ones you eat, or your pet cattle, like your horses or the goats or people have all of them for no reason other than to spend a lot of money. But it makes a difference on the hay.
Yeah.
And that means the environment has to be taken into consideration. So then we have to take into consideration the environment and the weather and fires. And then
the floods, atmospheric rivers. Yep.
But everyone says, well, there's hay all over the place. Straw and hay for an animal is different. Quality of what's in the proteins and the sugars can either actually have an animal thrive or die.
Right.
So now you have another problem.
Yeah.
So
making sure that you're getting the right type.
And like a lot of manufactured food that they produce is heavy soy. And that can be very detrimental to an animal.
Yeah.
But if you're just doing high protein to fatten them up, that's a big difference. But we don't ask ourselves what's in there. How do we get there? I'm not expecting everybody to suddenly become holier than thou and make demands on it. But if we're going to put a negative pressure on the farmers or the cattle producers, then we better step back and ask, well, what's really involved here? What's actually what the farmer does to get them to the feedlot is two different worlds. And what happens from the feedlot to the producer, like the processor, is another totally different game.
Fully.
So we always say, well, the farmers are causing problems. Farmers are barely making it. So if we don't even pay attention to that, then we have a whole other issue.
Yes.
So then you go down that part of it. As we have talked before and recently, is then the whole environmental circular economy. We were talking about Halia. And I remember her doing a speech for the women's supply chain about circular economy and about how the car manufacturers are doing stuff and about how the clothing industry, and I think we're lying to ourselves.
Right.
Because we don't have anything in place. And it's okay to be honest. But then if we're expecting something, then we have to ask, how can we create that conversation in that direction to make those things happen? So I always say that eventually I'm never going to be bored to the end.
Nope. Definitely
there's
not.
always going to be something.
Yeah.
Right? And there's so many things. So then we go down the AI story. And I think I've mentioned this to you too. I refuse to die stupid.
No.
So I took AI classes, done a lot of reading and research and trying. And I remember one of the gentlemen I had on one of the conversations about AI saying, just try it and break it. Like, it's okay. You're not like, be careful what you put in it and what access you give something, but it's okay. But you have to break it to try it. So,
Wow.
and I've tested it and it's still annoying. But then you go down the research and realize that politics can make a real problem without mentioning too many names.
Yeah.
So now you have a country that's been isolated to some degree in terms of their percentage of export opportunities and import restrictions. So you would sit there and everyone says, well, we have to have the government give us more opportunities for global trade. Governments actually have set up a lot that's sitting there.
Right.
But it's kind of like that, well, governments aren't supposed to do your job. And you need to access that information, and you got to see what you have available to offer in another country, and you have to find out where the market is. The government's there to give you a step, but you got to be the one to put your foot up and move it. And so if they don't have the visibility and technology to have that interaction with the global market, then we're not going to thrive. And so I was kind of curious about all that and did a lot of checking and research and challenging all the research opportunities that are in our new marketplace in technology. And Canada is grossly behind on our technology adoption.
Yes.
And I was actually shocked because I thought we were actually a lot better. And in terms of visibility to deal with countries like South Korea or even the Middle East, we don't have the same technology that they would look to want to deal with us with. And they say that in terms of adoption for technology, small to medium businesses, like 13%.
Right. Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so I challenged it because I thought that was kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Like, that's bad. AI is worse. Because you need to have the technology to bring in the AI.
Yes.
And if you don't understand the technology and you just think, I'm going to use AI, have you secured your use of AI? So I've talked to a few people about it in government, and they said they've approached businesses and asked them, like, are you going to upgrade? Are you going to look at new technology? Well, it's worked this way for this long, and I'm going to retire. But that's not how that's going to work, because there's going to be a complete void. So we've got to come up with a way that if you think you're going to, are you selling something, or are you just going to close something? And who's going to come in behind to help navigate the next opportunity?
Who is behind? And do they understand DOS?
Yeah. And the thing is, with the international rules in terms of visibility on labor laws and procurement of products in certain countries, and to assume that where you bought it is a good enough excuse to not get in trouble? Well, apparently that's very wrong, because I was curious about that. And the global law now, and it's global, that if you purchase something without doing your due diligence, you could be charged up to $400,000 per issue.
Oh, that's huge.
Yep. But nobody knows, because nobody's taking the technology or paying attention. But it's not happening to me, so I'm not going to worry about it. So I'd like to see the opportunity to sort of get to because small and medium businesses, they run about 90% of country. And that's actually in North America generally.
Yeah.
And to kind of get them aware, the grants are there to say that, well, is there anything available to help? Or is there any opportunities? There's always something. The cost of not doing it is actually more than doing it.
And I think that maybe is a big thing for getting people to know that the cost of doing something is actually not doing something is actually more expensive. And I think maybe it's shifting the focus for people to realize that too.
It's helping them understand a different conversation. So my memory of cost of ownership was always the thing when we were selling trucks. We were never the cheapest. And we never said we were. We didn't even apologize for it. But we would say that the cost of ownership in this time frame, we can guarantee you, ours is going to be lower. But then you have procurement people, and they just had to do that dollar. That's got to be the bottom dollar. We saw a lot of large purchasers, even in municipalities and cities, make decisions based on that bottom dollar, and then cost them so much more because of downtime, they weren't given the right information on the procurement, signed off on it, and they got vehicles that didn't work.
Ooh, yeah.
And so then they basically got a lead weight. And so then they're having what should have been a 4 to 5 year procurement shift. They were tightening it to 2 to 3 because they didn't have what they needed to do the jobs that they had actually made the original procurement for.
Right.
It's no different than technology. It's no different than just waiting it out and it'll all change and it'll straighten out. It's only going to get faster and it's going to happen quicker. And it's either a decision you're in or you're out. And if you're going to get out, you better get out quickly because you're going to get eaten alive and you're going to lose more money than you're ever going to make.
Right.
And there's basic and simple technology that can help. And you have to get over the fact, well, I don't want them to see what they have in my stuff. There's enough technology. I think it comes down to redeveloping and realigning conversations with the small to medium businesses. I think that we have to get past trying not to hurt our feelings. Mexico has an adoption rate, I think, of about 30 to 40% on technology and AI.
Oh, wow.
In the U.S. is, I think, going to 60%. And we may get to 20 one day. We can do a lot faster, but we're afraid of taking into consideration any investments. Like I say, here's an example of people not realizing they're in supply chain. Communicating with policymakers and understanding that sometimes you're not doing yourself a favor in impeding some things because you're protecting something at the cost of having nothing.
Right.
And if we have a conversation about policymakers in terms of sort of giving investment to help small and medium businesses might be outside of our area, out of Canada, because no one in Canada is interested, but there's a market outside that says, we'll invest to help because you have something we need, then they have to be more willing to allow that investment. They've got to find a way to do it.
Yes.
Because to say that we don't have any Canadian investors, there's people probably producing or have access or a capacity to create something that is an exportable good. And if nobody's going to invest in Canada for something that they don't see value internally, that's fine. But if there's somebody externally that wants to invest in that business, we should allow it.
Right.
And we don't. We have such a restriction in terms of investment opportunities and stuff that we see it in the big stuff. So you can imagine it's going to be harder on the smaller stuff.
Yeah.
And we need to make them more competitive. That's not to say all policymakers are bad. It's just that there's a need to greater information. And just to say that you're going to open up a market so they can export, but you got to give them the tools to export. You got to give them the understanding of what that costs, what that means. And I don't think the government should keep investing in businesses to help them.
Yeah.
Because that's not the goal. The goal is to help businesses invest in businesses so everybody thrives. Because when governments change, if things, let's face it, globally, when debt overcomes capacity, what happens? Those programs disappear. Those monies get pulled back. But if business to businesses are thriving and they need each other, you're not going to see that pulled back. It'll be because you're generating an income. You're actually generating a value, a profit. Governments don't look at that. They're not profit builders. Yes. So just give them to say, we're going to give you some money, we're going to help you out, we're going to give you these tools. But as soon as you have a monetary challenge, you don't think of what you're doing to the people that you've given this space of opportunity. What the encouragement is for business to business success. And not all business is going to be successful within Canada, but engagement outside of Canada would be good. I'm not saying we should give up ownership. I know that they say that there's only so much of a percentage that you can let an external investor have. That's fine, but 10% of something is better than 0% of nothing. We got to look at the math and see where we can give them opportunities to get investment in. Because Canadians, we're risk averse to our demise. And until we get sort of the engagement of increasing or encouraging those who are a little bit more willing to take that risk, we'll see the benefit and then it'll kind of snowflake. It's one person at a time.
Exactly. And I think it's like, I even look at the way the conversation about EI has really evolved just even 2 years, let alone 3. And the amount that it's really shot up in usage, etc., is really something to see just as an evolution.
Or do we want to go down there?
No, we won't. We don't want to go down there. But I just thought just saying it. It's kind of like, it reminds me of that conversation that we had like in 2011, 2012, and someone's like would bring up the conversation of, well, we should really look at autonomous vehicles, and the rest of the room would laugh and say, not in my lifetime. And then that would, as far as the conversation would go, and there we were in 2014, and everything shifted. And suddenly there was like, look at all these autonomous vehicles, all of these different pieces. And so suddenly the conversation would switched it so quickly in that period of time.
Well, the thing that people don't realize is that anything manufactured recently is actually autonomous. Yeah. They just haven't turned it all on. It's not all set up because there's no infrastructure, because our policymakers didn't get it right. Yeah. It's like the cost to try and navigate between province to province or state to state for the technology to read all the different roads or all the markers, or take 6 months to get a line on a curve so that the car won't go off the edge because it's looking for a marker.
Exactly.
That's where the problem is. It's all there. Yeah. They know enough. For example, if you put it on for automatic steer, and some are a bit more sensitive than others, and it'll follow, but it doesn't have the common sense yet because the way the roads are varied, that they can just go turn right automatically. So some roads, if you go, and then there's the dotted line, I think that's what they call it, it's dotted. It's there, and unless the signal light's on, that you have to still put on because you can't, doesn't talk to you yet, it will automatically go because it doesn't see a solid line.
Yes.
But if there's nothing, it'll just go.
Right.
So they need to have this consistency. So if I'm going to turn right and I don't want it to go without me telling it, I need that dotted line. And it'll hesitate. But if I don't put a signal light on, it's going to keep going straight. Yeah. But if I put the signal light on, it knows, okay, I'm going to take that dotted line because it's an exit. Exactly. But the technology's there, but none of the roads are consistent.
Right. And I remember this one graph one time, and it was talking about like the levels of automation. And I was like, well, I've got a, 2006 Toyota Corolla. It's not autonomous at all. But then I was like, but there's cruise control and there's ABS brakes. So it's not autonomous, but it's got one or two little features that were like the beginning phases of these things.
And a lot of them are there. Like, I mean, even if you take a look at your vehicle, so that used to be when we had parts and service, that it was a 1-to-1, $1 part, $1 service. Now it's completely shifted where it's now probably 60 to 70% labor and then some parts. Right. And those parts are like large scale, like be a full engine, complete failure, wire harness, which you hear that more and more. And then when it comes to accidents, you've got more pieces. But now it's more technology. It's more electronic. It's plug it in, read, know the trees to diagnose what's going on. Yeah. They can download everything into it now. They can do self repairs. That's been actually around quite a while, but it's become more common and people are more aware of it. So, I decided I needed a new stove and a fridge. And I'm looking at it. I'm like, oh, this is going to be expensive when it crashes. Because that's the reality. It's electronic. It's cheaper now to just, I can actually set it up and have my stove actually turn on in advance for me. Not my burners, because it's gas, but my stove. I can get it, turn it on and have run wherever I want. But when that goes down, it's not going to be cheap. No. Probably cheaper to buy a new stove. Those are the realities of it. But the technology's there. And until it's more solid, so we say to ourselves, well, why don't they make something that doesn't break? Well, anything can be made that way. But it doesn't function within society because people want new things. To say that we want something to live forever, we don't. We think we do. But they do try to get a certain length of time out of it. But we have to be realistic. Things are designed to fail, and that's okay. But it's consumer driven. But to think that we don't have it all there is false. To say that I'm going to put all these privacy and security features on my phone, and I'm going to not go into this AI platform, I'm not going to go into that technology because they're not going to hear or see me, because they're putting something into my head or something. They have known all about us for a very long time. And to suddenly hope that we are off the grid is wrong. Because the people off the grid they know where they are.
Yeah.
They're to say, well, how come they can't find the thieves from the Louvre? Well, it's not perfect science. But in terms of, knowing what your credit rating is, boy, you want to go to the bank, you're going to know.
Knowing your shopping habits.
Yeah.
Like Walmart, Canadian Tire, all of those places have been tracking that information for years.
For decades.
Yeah.
Yeah. And as soon as they could put it through a little scanner and your name was on a credit card, they knew who you were, what you were doing.
And the moment you signed up for loyalty card or
or you went to the bank and you opened a bank account, or and everyone's saying, well, technology is bad now, AI, they're going to do all these things. The only thing that changed is they got a little bit better, a little bit faster. But fraud's been here forever.
Yeah.
It's just they can do it a little bit better. And now we have to be a little bit more astute. We got to be a little bit more aware. So it's actually our lack of engagement, our lack of taking on technology and being engaged with it is what's hurting our industry, hurting us. Because if we don't know what it can do, we don't know what it's doing to us.
Right.
So, for example, in terms of how women are even 25% below men in global AI adoption, we have this sensitivity about it, it being unsafe, unethical. And I believe that.
Yeah.
But if we don't put our information in, we get what bit got put in.
Right.
So if less women are communicating or engaging in their conversations, or they're participating in what they want to put in. Because here it is. Yeah. An LLM is, because here, and you can test it. You take Perplexity and Claude and Chat and Gemini, and there's a few more. There's a lot more, actually. And you say Grok, there. So you give them all the same question. You're not going to get the same answer.
Right.
So you ask, well, why? They're all LLMs. They're all giving me information back. Why wouldn't they be the same? Because, and this is where Meta where there was that panic on this for a while, is because they paid to buy the guy where everyone went to get the information.
Right. And
then some of them all feed into different features. There's a whole hierarchy, like a whole history of books and documents that have not even been looked at yet. Would you think the Vatican's going to give up their stuff?
No.
So you have a limited access to the full knowledge base. They're all getting different information put in, and they're all going to give you different information coming out.
Right.
And if one company, Perplexity, for example, is very research-based, very scientific in its analysis, they're looking for different information.
Right.
And then you say, well, Chat will do an image and Gemini will do an image. You're not going to get anywhere near the same. So then you guys say, okay, if they're all getting LLMs and they're all going to give you this information, well, why are they different? Because what we allow it to go in, what we participate in terms of the research we want vetted, and if we say, don't go in and say, this is wrong, this has got to be corrected, and you can tell it, you're not going to get an improvement. And that's the issue. So anyway, about where women can get involved is having the conversation. So if a business is going to have access or give information on an LLM program, then they can challenge what they're receiving by pushing what information is going in. It's no different than now HR companies are being sued because of their bias. Well, the problem is that they're fed a limited information.
Yeah.
Where there's young men, for example, saying that these are all the things you need to understand. This is what men do. This is what we think about. This is what so then these guys are saying, well, this is what we think these people are like. This is what we believe those people are doing. And it's no different than when we do facial recognition. Well, if you don't put all the faces there, you're not going to get that breadth of recognition.
Yeah.
So if you don't take the time to get engaged, to put that information in. I mean, so here's the deal. If you don't want to share that, if you don't want to put your face out there, now I'm not saying go on Sora and do that crazy stuff, but part of the design of the programs, get engaged where you see opportunities to share what your knowledge is. Be a part of a program that's doing face recognition work. And they use your face. They use your face to identify a female under certain circumstances, age and color and tone. If we don't do all those things, then we're going to be washed into all the young men that are doing it.
Yeah.
And then they're all now, they don't have enough black or brown people. So they can't distinguish the features that are very, very minute and very select. So they're all categorized as a problem. And so if we don't put that in, then we have a problem what we're getting out. And women especially, because we have such a fear and want of protection that we are in control of either letting it tell us what to do, or we can be engaged and tell it what to do.
True. And I think sometimes it's also the feeling, at least from some people that I've spoken to, including myself, it almost feels like it's cheating in a way.
Well, there's a good term for you here. Shit in, shit out.
Yeah.
So if you really do some research, people don't realize is that a lot of governments, especially governments who want to control the narrative, will feed false research, false documents published, saying they're all done that way. Especially governments that can say that this researcher who's in their level did this, so it's got to be right. And then they put all this in, and all the LLM does is say, my best perception is with all the data I have, that's got to be the answer. It only makes an assumption based on the information it has. There's no accuracy in terms of it.
Right.
The only time that they can actually be really close to an accurate process is in numbers and in science. Because ironically, numbers really can't go too wrong. They know the math, they figure out the scientific calculations, and those people have put in the high level of it. That's why they can get it down, because they can just do the calculations quicker. They can come to the assumption quicker. Eventually we'll get there, but they just have the capacity to do it quicker.
Yeah.
But if you have a couple published documents about some theory, and there's 10 documents that have different theories, they make an assumption based on those 10 documents. This is what your answer should be. It's no different than they asked about the top 10 books that you should read. And then not one of those books existed. But the presumption was based on these authors, and they're often that they publish, and the names are sort of similar, they just assumed it. Because they didn't vet it. They didn't question it. And as humans, that's when we question.
I know, and that's when we really need to vet
And you need to ask yourself, who is this published by? And you can ask, but you say, show me the research, where you got it, and have you validated it. We just don't just ask a question and run.
Yeah.
How did you get your information? What was your logic? Why did you make the decision? Just ask it.
Yeah.
But we don't, and then we get comfortable with one program because we want to think it's right. But if it doesn't feel, it's no different than if somebody's sort of telling you, like, you kind of feel it. It's no different than the computer. So it's the same thing in how we're doing our everyday life. We're assuming that it's somebody else's fault that this isn't getting built, or the environment's bad, or we don't want to hear it. So when we get the truth, the news is bad and it's real. It's really come to the point of it's a little late. Right. And now we got to recover quickly.
Yeah.
And so it's no different than everyone wanting to deny climate change. Well, that's always going to happen. Okay, let's go with that theory. Climate change is going to happen. Doesn't matter what we do.
Yeah.
But it's here. So just say climate change is happening, and it's just natural. It doesn't matter what we do, but we still have to deal with climate change.
Yeah.
So, like, what part of this is you not quite getting? I'm okay with your logic, whether I think it's wrong or not.
Mm-hmm.
And if the water's rising and we're flooding, and cities and towns are getting wiped out for floods and storms and fires, who cares why it's happening?
Yeah.
What are we going to do about it?
Right.
But nobody wants to do that part. They're just arguing about you're right, you're wrong. In the meantime, we've lost cities.
Yeah,
we've lost
because we're not
lives. We have no communities.
Mm-hmm.
We can't feed each other because we're fighting about who cares about who's right or wrong. We have a problem.
Yeah.
So these are the pieces that all touch supply chain. So we now got environment. Let's get over the who's right or wrong. Let's fix the problem. Yeah. We're looking for...
Because it impacts so many pieces.
Yeah. So everyone's looking to try and sort of look for, make a problem out of a solution. Well, you're saying that the solution is to fix the food issue, but the problem is that you got the wrong attitude. Mm-hmm. No, that's not how we have to look at it.
Yeah.
So the conversation has to build on the little pieces. And my reality is that, yeah, I'd love to have everybody think I'm right. I'm the first person to tell you I'm not, because I don't know it all. Mm-hmm. But I have a sense that this doesn't seem right. Then, okay, who might know? And maybe there's 3 people and they all have a different opinion.
Yeah.
Okay, you all have an opinion. Can you tell me which one of you can tell me how we're going to feed these people?
Yeah.
Period. I don't care what your theory is. How do you feed the people? Or how do you make sure that we can have homes that can survive a tornado or a hurricane?
Yeah. How do you ensure? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it costs too much money. Well, how much is it costing you now?
And
it's a little late now.
Yeah.
Because so here, in terms of the supply chain on a personal level, and this is why I say supply chain starts from the bottom on a micro before it ever gets to the macro. Mm-hmm. Province of Alberta, especially in Calgary right now, is probably going to have an insurance issue. Coverage. People are upset that it's going high. Don't worry about being high. Get ready for being gone. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of insurance companies who are leaving. And the reasoning is, and it makes absolute sense, but we don't want to look at it because it's easier to just hope someone else will fix it for you. But on those swaths of areas in any place, BC, Saskatchewan, Alberta, but Alberta's really got a problem with hail. Mm-hmm. And the insurance companies have said, and industries have said, that they need to mandate product requirements.
Right.
Board and batten, not vinyl. Mm-hmm. Be careful what kind of asphalt, because not all asphalt can handle all the weather. You probably have to look at a mix of a product, because then you have fire, and you have hail, and then you have cold, and the winds are changing. So when I was helping with a roofing situation with who you know,
yeah,
I went down the rabbit hole because I thought, this is when I realized there was a problem. There was a real pushback. Insurance companies were pulling back. People couldn't afford their insurance. And I was kind of like, well, what's going on? And they have said that there are sections where the insurance companies are saying that they don't think that they'll stay because they can't keep coming back to fix these things. Instead of, we keep repeating our own mistakes instead of fixing it and going on.
Yeah.
So if we keep saying, well, it's cheaper for vinyl, great. But the insurance companies say, if you put vinyl on, we're not going to insure you. And then they're going to be mad. Well, you can't tell me what to do. No, I can. I can say, we're not going to insure you because you've chosen that, because we can't afford to cover it anymore.
Yeah.
And so we're kidding ourselves because we think we're doing a cheap product. Well, if you did the math on how much your insurance is going to cost you to put a higher quality product that can meet all those requirements, then the insurance companies are in a position where they can help. Insurance companies are going broke. They're disappearing. So do what you want. You're not going to have a choice.
Yeah, completely.
So now you have a policy. Then you have people who are pushing governments to say, oh no, this is in an industry you can't harm. You got to protect us. At what cost? For your buck or for the people's protection? And so those are the little things that, in terms of conversation, that come basically down to our supply chain. and how we look at it. And if we took half of the city of Calgary that all moved towards this product that was going to be of value, those prices come down.
True.
So it's supply and demand. So if you encourage people to recognize that if they don't do this, their insurance, say, if you put a board and batten, like a cedar or cement-based siding, or I wouldn't even say stucco is going to be the best thing, or brick or whatever, and you do that, your insurance comes down. And if you do this, your insurance comes down. Eventually, what's going to catch on? Well, if it costs me $100,000, well, it's not going to cost that much for most homes. 100 roof and siding all in one, and I do the math over, and I'm paying $5,000 a year in insurance. It's not going to take long.
No.
And the thing is, eventually, each year, you're going to get insurance. But if you don't, what happens when you don't get insurance?
There's
it's out of pocket. So it's people think that is someone else is going to fix it for them, and that's not the reality. It really comes down to our supply chain. It comes down to our awareness, our engagement, our questioning, and taking responsibility. So if a business doesn't want to get involved in technology, and they hope someone else will take care of something, we're kidding ourselves. So those are the conversations. And it's getting sort of past saying, well, we don't want to make anyone feel bad, or we don't want to insult them. It's not an issue of insulting.
No, but making people aware changes the context completely.
Yeah, empower them.
Yeah.
And if you don't, I think the decision is if you don't as a business want to do well, or like you don't want to take on the technology, you think it's too expensive and you don't want to get grants, or you don't want to maybe negotiate with a supplier or somebody to say, can you assist me in getting this so that I can help you with that? That's your choice. But when things go bad and you're losing your marketplace and you can't get employees, and because no one wants to work with somebody who's not moving forward, you can't blame anybody but yourself. It's no different than saying for myself, well, I could be healthier if I worked out, but I'm not getting healthier until I work out. So whose fault is that? It's not anybody else's fault. Asking the drug company to give me something to help me isn't going to make me any better in 10 years when I can't get anywhere, because the drugs didn't make me healthier. They just help hide and mask my problem.
Completely.
And that is basically the same as what we all hope for, that someone else is going to come in and take care of it for us. They're struggling to take care of their own mess. I mean, we have the pandemic did some great harm on our government's budgets. And right now, the theory behind a government's involvement, which I don't think anyone's figured out on the government side, is that they're supposed to take care of the roads. And if they have healthcare, not all countries have it, that they make sure that healthcare is available. Might not be perfect, but you got to get basic healthcare available.
Very much so.
And then they make sure that they, as a country, that we're protected and the big picture stuff, wildfires in the forestry. Well, the government has to take care of that, because communities, that's not where they're at. But then in the community level, now we have to take care of something. And if that means that you have to do a little bit on your space, then that's what you have to do. But we have to take the responsibility. I mean, there are days I'd love to blame the next guy. But I look in the mirror and realize that there's nobody coming to save me. Unless I get out there. I might find someone to help me. I might be able to learn who to communicate to get that information. But no one's going to just make it happen for me. Yeah. So that's really what it comes. And I look at that, like I say, everything I see in terms of how it's working, what's happening, is going to touch supply chain.
Fully. If you were to give advice to someone entering the industry or pivoting their careers, what advice would you give?
Really broad. Really open. So it kind of depends on where they're coming from, age being one, where they're coming out of, and what it is that they want to do.
Yeah.
And how old they are. Because time can help a lot. In today's world, I think that we need to be self-aware of education on technology, period. Doesn't matter what you're going to do. Doesn't matter what career, where you want to be. Even if you decide you're going to retire tomorrow, you need to learn about technology. You need to learn the basics about how technology works, from inventory, how you purchase, how it's being impacted, how you're being fed your information, and you should learn about AI. Two different things. Because if you don't become self-aware of what's happening around you, you can't engage in it when you need to use it for work. And then if you get smart enough at it, then you can actually be a participant in encouraging where you're at or what you want to do. So it's interesting enough in supply chain, because it depends on what you're doing. If you're out of school and you've decided you're going to go into supply chain and you're trying to decide if you're going to do procurement, or you're going to do logistics, or whatever facet that you want to get into, is to ask yourself, why? What about it is important? And where is the value added for you? Because procurement isn't just ordering, and it isn't just handling the inventory management. It's the whole cycle. Logistics is not just being in a trucking company or an airline. It's basically even just moving a product from one room to the next. Where do you see it? Is it the movement of it? Is it the ordering of it? Is it the manufacturing of it? Where do you want to go? And then find anything. If you're young enough, try it all.
True.
You don't know what you don't know until you get there.
Exactly.
As much as I don't want to put down all the big manufacturers, the big warehouses, the airlines, the big trucking companies, somebody needs you. And they're not going to hire you. They're not going to put an ad in the paper. They're not coming. You got to go. It's not even just going to a networking event. It's not even just doing LinkedIn. It's actually saying, okay, what industries are kind of interesting? Maybe.
What do I like?
What do I like? I told one young girl, she said, I'm trying to find a job. I don't know what's going, everyone's applied to everything. I'm not going to say you shouldn't apply in certain things, but I said, have you ever thought of going to a small warehouse, a wholesaler in Calgary, even the region? And she says, what do you mean? Well, it was spring. And I said, why don't you find a flower or like a gardening center wholesaler and say, you're a student in supply chain with business this, and you are looking for a summer job to work in this field, and you would like the opportunity to work there. And if they would allow you to try and utilize some of your training to assist them as an option, they're going to gain and you're going to learn and have a summer job. And I said, did you think of that? Like, there's just taking the florist, for example, or you like anybody.
True.
Everybody has a need for it.
Very much so.
Don't look for the job that says, oh, you're a supply chain person, because 90% of the companies out there don't even know they need supply chain people.
They don't realize it.
Yeah. They think that when you say supply chain, oh, you mean trucking company. No.
Yeah, no.
And so you actually need to go into an industry that you think, oh, that's kind of cool. I'm going to go in there. I'm going to say, I'm going to make you a deal. I need a summer job, or I would like to get into this industry. This is what I bring. I would like the opportunity to work here, and I would like the opportunity to share my knowledge and share, maybe grow from it. You'd be surprised how many people would be like, heck yeah.
Yeah.
But they don't know until you go talk to them. And then there's the good one. Well, they're not going to pay me enough. Well, here's how this works. You're not getting paid anyway. Don't worry about the pennies yet. Worry about the opportunities, because when you put it on your job, on your resume, that you worked in this industry doing
With
these
this,
jobs, then the next company is going to say, okay, they take a risk, they tried. Or if you're brave, like really have confidence in what your capacity to do, is say, I'll make you a deal. I'll work on with you on a contract basis. I believe that my capacity in this information or this experience could maybe help you. And if I help you increase value or money, are you willing to maybe look at giving me a bonus after the salary, after this base hourly? I always said when I had people come apply to me, if they said, I'll make you money, heck, I'm going to hire them. The deal is, if you make me money, I'll pay you more. I'll pay you more, and then you show up. It's the other way. Savvy business people will do that. Yeah. You got to have the confidence. The other thing that I've found a little bit probably disheartening is the immigration challenges. We need them. I don't want to go down that conversation about that, but there's these young people, so probably people who are a little older than just general coming out of universities or SAIT, that have a breadth of knowledge. No, it's not here. But if you want to deal with somebody in another country one day,
Yeah.
Wouldn't you hire someone who knows the country
Very much.
or knows the language? And wouldn't you even like to learn what they know from dealing in that country so that you can have a knowledge that you didn't have before?
Completely.
As a business person, I'd be like, why wouldn't I take advantage of somebody who's already got all of this, who can help me and give me that upper edge that I want to deal on this country and I don't even know the first language. I don't know the cultural expectations. I don't know how they have a hierarchy and how they deal with people. Wouldn't you want to have that person there with you to guide you and give you capacity to be successful? So we got to get over that, well, you don't have a Canadian experience. We don't have a lot of, obviously, if we only have 12% of businesses, or even let's say 15 that are doing technology, and we have we don't have any global awareness, we as business owners need to stop and say, there's these young students, there's these young people, these experienced people that have so much knowledge. The next one is now we're on an age issue. And this is the one thing that I've picked up from the technology for AI, is that AI will not take your experience. So what you and I have learned is not in any LLM.
No.
But if I know AI, I understand it, I know how to use it, I know what it's going to be doing, I know how the agents are created, I know where to watch in terms of how they integrate each other, and I have my knowledge.
Yeah.
I'm not replaceable. But if my knowledge is sitting here and I don't want to touch that AI or that technology, somebody else will. So people who know AI will replace you, not AI.
True.
So the conversation has to be, is we have the value, but you've got to take the initiative to make yourself invaluable. And all it is taking on that technology, understanding what that technology does, questioning it. It's no different than when I was teaching at, say, strategic management. I say, what software package are you going to use for your accounting? Oh, this one here. I said, did you vet to see if they've got their formulas correct and that you're putting the right data in and it's feeding the information that you want it to feed versus just assuming it's doing it?
Yeah.
Well, no. I said, well, then you don't know what you're getting. Don't believe it because someone else designed it. They're human. They made mistakes.
Right.
If AI is making mistakes and we think it's great, are you sure that's right? Challenge it a few times, put it in a few different programs and test it out. And that's the same thing with all what we do, is don't just take it for granted and then you have an opportunity to be invaluable because you're questioning it, you're challenging it, and you're showing that I know this from experience. This is what's not making sense. And those are the things. Now, I could go on for days in terms of what they could do. But that being said, I think it's just a basic that we have to take personal ownership. We have to take that initiative to move forward. No one said it was going to be easy. And I'm over 60 and I'm still pushing myself.
Completely.
No less afraid, no less anxious. But there's so many pieces in there that we can reach and communicate and integrate that we can give people the opportunities that they don't even see. It's all there.
Yeah.
We have to step past that anxiety, that uncertainty.
Exactly. And what I've loved about this conversation today is it reminds me of a lot of conversations we've had over the years where it goes from one area to the next, to the next, to the next. And we could just keep on going to
forever. Oh, yeah, that's what there's medical terms for this. They don't have the medication yet.
No,
but there's terms.
Yeah, but that it shows that it's so multifaceted in so many different aspects too. So
that's why nobody gets away from me very fast when they say I'm not in supply chain. Honey, let me tell you.
Yeah, fully.
And that's because in this whole conversation, it all stems from the supply chain.
Exactly. So I really appreciate your time today, and
it's been fun.
And it's been a really great conversation. So thank you very much.
Thank you. It's been fun.
Thank you for listening to this Zebras to Apples podcast episode. I hope you enjoyed the showcase of the fun and fascinating stories of supply chain logistics. If you like this episode, I would love it if you could give it a rating and review. For more information about this topic, you can go to zebrastoapples.com or follow Zebras to Apples on the social media platform of your choosing, whether that's Instagram, Facebook, Twitter X, Blue Sky, or LinkedIn. You can support the show on Patreon. Also, check out the show notes below. Please join me again for another episode of Zebras to Apples. Have a wonderful day.